Today we're going to go back and we're going to look at factoring trinomials. Okay? So let me just erase this because like I said, I would go over this again. So first things first. In the previous section, we were looking at factoring a GCF, or we were looking at factoring a polynomial with 4 terms. Today, specifically, in this section and the next section, we're going to be looking at factoring trinomials. Okay? So we're going to be looking at factoring trinomials. And the most important part about this is the leading coefficient on this x squared plus bx plus c coefficient. I'm sorry, polynomial. That leading coefficient is a 1. So every single problem that we do today, it's going to be a 1. If it's not a 1, you might be able to factor out a GCF first, and then you'll see, oh, it is a 1. Okay? Now, in chapter 12, we looked at this problem that I have right here. X plus 3 times a quantity, x minus 1. In other words, we have a binomial times a binomial. And when we did these problems, the majority of the time, we ended up with an answer that's a trinomial. So remember, the process of factoring is to rewrite your problem so that it is the multiplication of some things. All right? So it's the reverse of multiplication. That's factoring, all right? So if I have a trinomial, then that means I must have multiplied 2 binomials. Okay? Now, I did say most of the time because there is an exception. And it's right here, all right? In fact, let me highlight it. Here's the exception. Because notice in this situation, when I have 2 binomials and I multiplied them, I got another binomial, okay? And the telltale sign that's what's going to happen is you got to be able to recognize this is one of those special products from chapter 12, section 5. This is that sum and difference of binomials, where it's x plus 2, x minus 2, or x plus 4, x minus 4, or x plus 8, x minus 8. In other words, the terms are the exact same. They just differ by the signs in between. All right, so here we go. Here comes the big part. How do we actually factor a trinomial of the form x squared plus bx plus c? All right, so step 1, you're going to want to write the multiplication of 2 binomials. Now, this is what I'm saying. If we know that our answer is x squared plus bx plus c, remember, this is like a game of Jeopardy. I'm going to give you the final result. You got to tell me what we actually had to start with. So if my initial answer is a trinomial, your first step, and this should be, honestly, this should almost be like a mechanical thing. Like you see this and you automatically do it, is to write 2 binomials with an x and an x up front. Okay? It's the first thing you should do. The second thing is I want you to determine your signs. Notice it's plural, which means I want you to determine both signs. Okay? More on that later. Like when we do problems, you'll see it. But I gave you a nice little hint. Always copy the first sign. No matter what it is. If it's a plus, then you're going to write a plus. If it's a minus, you write a minus. Okay? Step 3. Now this is step 3A and 3B. You got to meet both criteria. You want to find the factors of the last term. And these factors should multiply to get the last term and combine to give you the middle term. Now, what I mean by combine, I mean when you bring them together. Because, see, your book says, and they should add to give the middle coefficient. And I don't like that word add. I mean, I think combine's a better word because sometimes your numbers or your signs may be both negative. So adding kind of is like counterintuitive to that. So let me go ahead and show you an example. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the first one. In fact, I'm probably do a couple of them before I let you do one. All right. So hopefully you have these signs or you have these steps in front of you. So just watch what I do. If you just want to watch, it's fine. I'm going to factor x squared plus 5x plus 6. Number 1, it's a trinomial. Number 2, the coefficient out front is a 1. So because I have that, I'm going to go ahead with step 1. I'm going to write my parentheses, and I'm going to put an X in both of them. Step 2, I always copy down the first sign. All right, so I do it directly underneath. Now, here's the thing. If you were to check yourself at the very end of this problem, you would know you would have to distribute. More importantly, you would have to distribute that number right there, that we're looking for, that number. Currently, this number that I just drew the number sign there, that number is positive. A positive number times another number has to give you a positive for an answer. So what you're really asking yourself is, a positive times what equals a positive? Can somebody help me there? Good. So your second sign has to be positive. It has to. So step 1 is done. Step 2 is done. Step 3, you're going to write out the factors of 6. Now remember, factors are numbers that are being multiplied that equal the product. Now, these two factors, let me put a little check mark there. These two factors have to combine to give you the middle coefficient. My middle coefficient here is positive 5. Here's what I know. I know both of the signs of my numbers have to be positive. And I have options. Option 1 is I add those two numbers together, but that gives me 7. I want 5. So I know this 1 and 6, the factors, not what I want. How about plus 2 and plus 3? Well, plus 2 plus 3 is positive 5. And that's exactly what I wanted. So I put a little square, and I will put a 5. Oops, sorry, wrong numbers. I will put a 2 and a 3. And what I've just done is factored x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now, I know this may look familiar for a lot of us, and I get that. I also know that a long time ago when you were learning this, chances are you were told to go ahead, and you don't have to write this down. I just want to show you. Chances are you were told to do this, and then you were told find two numbers that multiply to get 6, and that's it's not the wrong way to do it. It's not the best way to do it. All right, and you're gonna see why later on. Okay, you're gonna see why you always want to do your signs first. Okay, so before I move on, are there any questions with how I did this? Come on, bro. There we go. Nope. I wanted black. There we go. All right. So if there's no questions, I'm going to do the next one. Okay. So I see a trinomial. I see a 1 out front. I love that because I'm going to go directly into this. Okay. I put an X and an X. Step 1 is done. Step 2, I always copy the first sign. So that's a negative. So I'm going to copy down a negative. Now, here's what I know, and this is very important. I hope you are looking at the screen right now. I know, since my first sign is negative, what does the second sign have to be so that I get a positive as an answer? So a negative times a blank equals a positive. That, good, and that's the second sign. Okay? Like I said, If you can determine what your signs are first, everything else later on is easy. So now what we have to do is we have to write out the factors of 70. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If you have a hard time doing this, finding these factors, here's what you do. Just write a column from 1 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then you get out your trusty, hold on, there we go. Then you get out your little trusty calculator. Now I know 1 times 70 is 70. To find the other factors, just take the number 70 and divide it by 2 and just go right down the column. 2 times 35. 70 divided by 3. Now, 70 divided by 3 is 23.333. Not a good number. Cross it out. 70 divided by 4. 17 and a half. Not a good number. And that's all I'm doing here, is I'm just finding the factors. 5 and 14. I can tell you 6 doesn't work. I can tell you 10 works. 8's not going to work. 9's not going to work. Okay? So what we just found are all the factors. So 1 and 70, 2 and 35, 5 and 14, 7 and 10. Here's what's the beautiful part. They also need to combine to give you negative 17. That's not going to happen here. That's not going to happen here. Now, negative 5 minus 14, well, that's negative 19. That doesn't work either. If you're asking yourself, where did he get the minus 5 and the minus 14 from? Since I already did my signs, I know whatever pair of numbers I pick, they're both going to be negative. So, 5 and 14 doesn't work. Negative 7 minus 10 is negative 17. That's the pair I needed. So, minus 7, minus 10, and I'm done. Does that make sense? Okay, how would I check myself? Please don't chew the wire. How would I check myself?
Multiply.
Yeah, I would just multiply it out. Here, go get your toy. So, to check myself, let's just multiply. X times x is x squared. X times negative 10 is negative 10x. Negative 7 times negative 7 times x is negative 7x. And then this is the beauty. Negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 10 is 70. So you get x squared minus 17x plus 70. Good? All right. Now, I'm going to do the next one. This is where hopefully you see, by doing the signs first, it makes everything so much easier. Am I moving too fast? Are we okay? All right, nobody's saying anything, so I think I'm moving at a good pace then. Maybe I'm moving too slow. Am I moving too slow? I never asked that question. Okay, all right. So here we go. Step 1. I see a trinomial with a 1 out front. I'm going to go directly into this. X and X. Step 2, I always copy down the first sign. Now, I know a positive times what is going to equal a negative. Because remember, that 14 is negative. So a positive times what is a negative? I'm sorry, Rumsey, I keep cutting you off.
Positive but negative.
Good, thank you so much. So this second sign is a negative. Now, factors of 14. This is step 3. 1 and 14, 2 and 7. And that's it. Now, here's why it's always good to put the signs first. You know these numbers have to combine to give you positive 5. That'll never happen here with 1 and 14. All right? Now, with the 2 and a 7, you have 2 options. And here are your options. Watch this. You can have plus 2 minus 7 or negative 2 plus 7. The reason why is I have 2 different signs, so they can be any which way. If you do the signs first, you can see exactly what you have. This is going to be negative 5, and this is going to be positive 5. So when I go to factor this, here's my 2 binomials. What number goes right here with the positive symbol? The 7, very good. And what number goes with the minus symbol?
2.
There you go. Crystal, when I said, you know, how many of us did this problem and you did the numbers first? Do you remember doing that? And then if it wasn't right, you had to like switch the signs? And then, do you remember how complicated it could get if there were more factors?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
If you do your signs first, all that goes away. Okay? Are there any questions? All right. I want you to do 4 and 5 for me, please. So I'll give you some time. Do number 4 and number 5. Do we need some more time? Okay. Okay, do we still need some more time, or are we okay? All right, I'll give you another minute. Uh-oh, Artie's barking. Come on, Galileo. There you go. Okay, let's try this. So, first, can somebody give me an answer for p squared minus 2p minus 63?
I get inside on the parenthesis p positive 7 multiplied by p minus 9.
All right. So, let's go ahead. Let's go through this. Let's make sure.
No.
Oh, no. Hold on.
P positive 7. P positive 7.
Ramzia, can you tell me what 2 times 3 is?
Excuse me?
What is 2 times 3?
2 times 3?
Yeah.
8.
And what's 3 times 2?
3 times 2, 9.
No. 3 times 2.
3 times 2?
Mm-hmm. 3 times 2.
8.
Nope. 3 times 2.
Multiplied by
3 times 2 is 6.
Oh, this one.
And 2 times 3 is 6. In other words, the order does not matter. So p minus 9 times p plus 7 is the...
I got P positive 7.
I know. It doesn't matter the order in which you put them. Watch. You'll see. You'll see. Trust me. Trust me. You'll see. So, first things first. Because we got our answer. Step 1, write that. Step 2, always copy down the first sign. Always. Now, the second sign has to be a positive, because a negative times a positive is a negative. All right? Factors of 63. 163. Actually, there's more, but I'm gonna stay with the 7 and 9. Here's what I know. I know 7 and 9 are gonna work. The question becomes, how do I arrange them? I can have negative 7 plus 9 or 7 minus 9. This gives me positive 2. This gives me negative 2. So here is my answer right there. That's the pair of numbers that I want. I want a positive 7 and a negative 9. Okay? Now to check yourself, I'm going to erase. To check yourself, all you have to do is distribute. P squared plus 7p minus 9p minus 63 gives us p squared minus 2p minus 63. Ramzia, this was your answer. Notice when I distribute, I get p squared minus 9p plus 7p minus 63. You still get the same exact answer. And that's because when you were multiplying binomials, the order in which they appear doesn't matter. That's called the commutative property. So order does not matter when you're multiplying. Does that make sense now? Are we good? All right. What about the second one? What'd you get? This one should have been, I think, the easy one. How many of us got stumped on number 5? Jada, you got stumped? Jada, can you at least try to walk us through what you did?
I found the signs and put A inside of the parentheses.
Okay, I love the way you're doing it so far. I agree with everything. What next?
I couldn't do the next.
Well, what would be the next part? You got to find the numbers, correct? 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. Those are the only factors of 10. Would you agree? Now, these factors multiply to get 10, but they also have to combine to give you what? 2. Will that ever happen here? It's a yes or a no? No. This problem cannot be factored. You can't do it. There's a special name that we use. That word is called prime. Just like a prime number only has the factor 1 and the number itself, a prime polynomial, the only way you can you can factor it, so we just say it's prime. All right? Notice not every trinomial can be factored. What's nice is now that you have steps on how to do this, if you feel confident with what you've wrote on the page, just like with Jada, I felt confident with everything you did. If you can't combine to get that middle term, then it can't be factored. Okay? Are there any questions? All right, now this next one, x to the 4th plus 13x squared plus 12. This one looks different from everything that we're used to. It does, okay? But there is something we can do. So over here, I'm going to show you, it's not a trick. This is just being able to understand what's happening, okay? If I look at that x to the 4th, I know x to the 4th can be rewritten as x squared to the 2nd power. Because remember, when you have a power raised to a power, you multiply the powers together. Okay? This x to the 2nd, well, if I just wrote it like this, now I have x to the 1st. Because remember, a power raised to another power, you multiply the powers together. In other words, x to the 4th plus 13x squared plus 12 can be factored. It actually has the form that we need. Because if you think about this, if I just got rid of this and got rid of this and just left the parentheses here, notice I have something raised to the 2nd power. Actually, I wanted to leave that there. I wrote it backwards. And something raised to the 1st power. So watch what I do here. Just watch. Because I don't want to confuse anybody. So I'm going to erase this. I don't want this on the board anymore. Just want to show you how this works out. X to the 4th plus 13x squared plus 12. It's a trinomial, and there's a 1 out front. we're going to try our method. So I'm going to put an x and an x, but now I got to be careful because I want x to the fourth. So instead of writing just x and x, I'm going to write x to the second and x to the second. Because I know if I were to check myself, I would multiply these two together and I would get x to the fourth. Next, we always copy down the first sign. That's a plus. Now let's find our other sign. Well, that's going to be a plus as well. Now I need the factors of 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I need them to combine to give me positive 13. I know both numbers are going to be positive. Plus 1 plus 12 is plus 13. So, x squared plus 1 and x squared plus 12. And we've just factored this. So, although it looked a little confusing, it actually worked out perfectly for us. Now I can give you a little note. If you have the form all right, so if you have the form x to the fourth plus bx squared plus c, try to factor it. And to help you, your step 1 is staring you in the face. Just write the x squared and x squared. Now, I put the plus signs there because my general form was positive, but those signs will change. The most important part is the x squared and x squared. Okay? Are there any questions? Like I said, I don't want to move too fast. I don't want to move too fast. So if you got a question, you have to ask. We are in April. The semester's over in approximately 31, 32 days. So time is not on our side anymore. All right? Krista, why are you smiling like that?
What makes me happy?
Doesn't make me happy. It means I don't get to see you guys anymore. I love this class. Look at me. I'm sad. Frowny face. Anyways, the only way I can make this more difficult for you, now that we have the we have the steps, we have our flow, the only way I can make this more difficult is by doing things like problem 7, where I switch up the terms. That's it. And I ask, can you factor this? You got to be able to look at this and say, well, I got the x squared term and there's a 1 in front. So let's rewrite it first. We're going to put it in that form, x squared plus bx plus c. Okay? We're going to put it in that form. All right? That's the only, like I said, that's the only way I can make this more difficult. It's by switching things up, trying to trick you. Now, we got a trinomial with a 1 out front. Let's do our step 1, and let's do our step 2. So remember, step 1, binomials with an x. Step 2, copy the first sign down. And we know a negative times a negative is a positive because we need positive 48. Now, we need factors of 48, okay? And like I said, if you ever have problems, just start writing this out, because I'm going to do this one more time because something happens here that I want us to see. So we start just by writing a column 1 through 9 and just use a calculator or think about it. 1 times 48 equals 48. 2 times, 24 equals 48. 3 times what gives me 48? 18? 16. Yeah, 18 would be too much. All right, 4 times 12 gives me 48. 5 does not work. 6 times 8 gives me 48. 7 doesn't work. 8 times 6. Now, notice here and here, they're the same. Would you guys agree? They're the same? 6 times 8, 8 times 6. When you start to see repeating, that's when you can stop. In other words, I can just get rid of all these down here because I'm repeating myself now. Okay? I need two numbers to combine to give me negative 14. All right, that doesn't happen here, here, not even here. Negative 4 minus 12 is negative 16, which is close, but it's not what I need. Negative 6 minus 8. Well, there's my negative 14. So, negative 6 and negative 8. And there's my answer. So the only hard part here, you have to rewrite the problem first. You always, always, always want it in that form, where the squared term comes first, then the x term, then the constant. Okay? Are there any questions? Amanda, how are we looking? Good? Amanda, could you read the very bottom of the screen where it says objective 2? What's it say?
Factoring out the greatest common factor.
So guess what kind of problems these are going to deal with?
I don't know.
I just underlined it.
Oh, more greatest common factor.
More greatest common factor. So let's look at these problems, okay? So let me leave that right there. So if I look at 4x squared minus 24x plus 36, here's what we know. We went 1x squared. We want that 1 out front. We don't have that. We have a 4. So the first thing that we're going to ask ourselves, can we factor out a GCF? Crystal is shaking. You're shaking your head yes. So tell me what to factor out then.
4.
Now, if I factor out a 4, everyone, that means, remember, I'm dividing every single one of these by 4. So that's going to give me x squared minus 6x plus 9. Does everybody agree with that so far? Now, B, here's the question we're asking ourselves. Since we've factored out our GCF, the question becomes, the trinomial that is inside the parentheses, can it be factored? And the only way to check yourself is to factor it. So here's what I'm going to write. I'm going to write it in red. The 4 comes along for the ride. We know if we're factoring a trinomial, it's the multiplication of two binomials. I also know since this x inside, or I'm sorry, since the x squared inside the parentheses is now a 1, I can write x and x, and I can do my signs real quick. A negative times a negative. Well, I'm moving way too fast now. Copy the first sign down. The second sign has to be a negative because a negative times a negative is a positive. And we want positive 9. So we'll write out the factors of 9. And the only way that we can combine to get negative 6 is negative 3 minus 3. And there's your final answer. So now, I'm making this a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to factor out a greatest common factor first. Okay? But other than factoring that GCF out first, did anything change? Did my technique change at all? And that's what you have to go on. Your technique. There are a lot of different problems like this that I can put on a test or a quiz or a homework. The technique doesn't change. First thing you do, check for a GCF. Second, count the number of terms. All right? Let's look at this next one. Oh, this one has a typo in it. We're not going to look at the next one. We're going to cross it out. Because that one has a typo in it. We're going to do this one instead. Oh, geez. World's thickest marker. There we go. How about x to the third minus 5x squared plus 6x? This, the way it looks right now, doesn't even fit our mold. Remember, our mold is x to the second power. This is x to the third power. So right now, this doesn't even fit. But is there a GCF? What's the GCF? It's x. Remember, when you got variables and every single term, look for the smallest exponent. That is going to be right here, x to the first. So we're going to factor out an x. And by doing that, I get x squared minus 5x plus 6. So now the question becomes, can this be factored? And the only way to know is to try it. The x out front is going to come along for the ride. So I have a trinomial inside the parentheses. There's a 1 in front of it. So I write x and x. Step 1 is done. Step 2 are my signs. They both have to be negative. Step 3, factors of 6 that combine to give me negative 5. That's going to be 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and they're both negative. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. And there you go. Are there any questions? Okay. Now, we're going to do the next two sections combined. Section 3 and Section 4. They're both the same. They deal with the same exact problems. Section 3, the way that I can sum it up is the guess and check method. Crystal, this is the one I absolutely hate. This is the one where you got to like change the numbers and change the signs. You got to check yourself. I don't like that. Section 4 teaches you a much more systematic approach. It's called the AC method. And that's what we're going to focus on. So we're doing sections 3 and 4 at the same time. Your homework will say chapter 13, section 3 and 4. So you got one homework assignment for both sections. It's not a big one. Okay? Now, in this section, I'm right here. I'm all the way up at the top underneath Objective 1, which is factoring trinomials of the typo of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Notice here's the difference. In this section, we're going to learn how to factor trinomials that have this form ax squared plus bx plus c. The key difference between this section and section 2, a does not equal 1 anymore. It doesn't. And I gave us just a little example. So in the previous section, notice on that trinomial, the leading coefficient is a 1. In this current section, it's a 3. That changes things. Here's why. All right, without going too far into it. We know if we have a trinomial, it has to be, or the factored form has to be the multiplication of two binomials, which is underneath here. But here's the problem. We would love to put an x and an x here. The question becomes, I need to get 3x squared. Does that 3, does it go in that binomial? Or does it go in the second binomial? Because that means something. That means something. It'll change things. Okay? Now, and like I said, in section 3, they kind of just say, here, figure it out. Okay? In section 4, they teach you this thing called the AC method. That's what I'm going to teach you. All right? So, our approach will be slightly modified from the previous section. What I mean is we're still going to do our steps, but there's an additional step that we need to throw in there, okay? So step 1, factor out a GCF provided it exists, all right? A GCF may exist and may not. Then step 1A, I want you to get an idea of the final factored form. I will explain what that means when we get there. We're just going to get an idea of the final factored form. Step 2, this is where the AC method kicks in. We're going to multiply A times C. Now, remember, we're looking at this right here. Trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're going to multiply the coefficients. Okay? That's all we're going to do. Step 3, we're going to rewrite the middle term using the factors found in step 2. And then step 4, we rewrite the middle term, and look what we do. We factor by what? Somebody just read that for me in the red square. Factor by.
Grouping.
Very good. Samantha, don't unmute yourself. Or don't mute yourself. I need you unmuted. Because I'm going to ask you another question. You ready? Was that just a sigh?
No.
Was that a sigh? Don't worry. It's not a hard question. Now, Samantha, you got to help me out here. We are starting with a trinomial. Do you agree?
Yeah.
In order for us to factor by grouping, how many terms do we have to have? Do you remember? If you don't remember, say, I don't remember, Mr. Float.
I don't remember Mr. Float.
And that's fine because I'm here to help. You need 4 terms. Well, that's weird. How are we going to go from 3 terms to 4 terms? It happens right here. We're going to rewrite that middle term. So, here's what I would like for all of you to do right now. Put the pencils down and just watch. All right? This method is not difficult. You have steps on how to do it. The only thing that makes it difficult is you move too fast. Slow yourself down. So, there we go. Just watch. First, factor the following trinomial. 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. Now, I have a 2 out front. As soon as I see the number is different from a 1, I'm thinking AC method. So, I need the AC method here, which is directly above. So, step 1, factor out a GCF if it exists. There is no GCF here. But now, I'm going to get an idea. What I mean by that is this. And if you didn't catch this, I'm going to do more examples. Watch the video after I upload it to YouTube. Here is what I'm saying about getting an idea. I'm going to pretend that 2 is not there. All I'm going to do is just pretend this is just a normal problem. And that right there is my idea. I know my final answer is going to look somewhat like this. It's going to be x plus and x plus. Now, here's what I don't know. And like I said, please just watch. What I don't know, and I'm going to erase this, so that's why I want you to watch this. I don't know if the 2 goes here or Let me get my keyboard. I don't know if the 2 goes there or if it goes there. And to be 100% honest with you, I don't care. I don't. All I wanted was an idea. And this is my idea. And there's a reason for that. Now, here's step 2. So there's step 1. Here's step 2. Okay? I'm going to multiply A times C. 2 times 15 equals 30. And it says, multiply A times C, find the factors of that result. So I'm going to find my factors. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Okay, step 2 is done. Here's step 3. I'm going to write my middle term, which is bx. In this case, it's 11x. Let me write that 11x a little bit neater. I'm going to write my middle term using the factors that I found in step 2. So I know, and this is why getting an idea is so important. I know, excuse me, that when I add these together, I have to try to get 11x. The only way that occurs is all the way down here. Does that make sense so far, everybody? Yes or no? Okay, now watch what I do. Here is the beautiful part. Samantha, this is where you and I had our little conversation. I'm going to rewrite 11x as 5x plus 6x. Okay? Step 4. Rewrite the middle term. 2x squared plus 5x plus 6x plus 15. And Samantha, that is where I went from a trinomial into 4 terms. And once I'm in 4 terms, I know I can group them. I can factor out my mini GCFs. And then I can factor out the common binomial. And there's my factored form for 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. Are there any questions with what I just did? Because now you can start writing it down. And as you're writing it down, I'm going to go through it again. Okay? So, first thing I did when I approached this problem, I noticed I have 2x squared. I have a number in front of the x squared that's different from 1. So I'm thinking AC method. Step 1, I try to factor out a GCF if it's possible. In this case, it wasn't. Step 1A, the next thing I do is I just want to get an idea of what my answer looks like. More importantly, the idea, honestly, helps me determine my signs, because those signs are going to be very important to me. Okay? They help me to determine my signs. What do you have? You don't need this. Here. Take this instead. All right, so step 2, so I just get my idea because I want those signs, okay? Now, step 2, I'm going to take A times C. In this case, it was 2 times 15. Excuse me. That equaled 30, and I'm going to write out all the factors of 30. So I wrote 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. And if you notice, I'm basically going through the same procedure that I did in the previous section. I got an idea, I find the factors, and then I want them to combine to give me the middle number, that middle term. The only difference here is I'm going to rewrite that middle term. So instead of writing 11x, I'm going to write 5x plus 6x. Now I have a polynomial of 4 terms, so I can factor by grouping. And that's exactly what I did. That technique is all the way back in section 1. So, factoring trinomials when there's a number out front is a little bit more time consuming. Okay? But if you just take your time and work through the steps, use this problem number 1 as a model, you should be able to get through it. And the only way you're going to get good at this is by practice. That's it. Okay? So, how many of us still need some more time to copy this down? Because I'm going to scroll up to right there. Because I'm going to do the second one. All right? Now, this one, if you want to write along with me, I encourage that. Okay? Try to talk to yourself. I mean, everybody in the room is muted, so you can talk out loud. All right? And repeat what I'm saying. That way you can get the feel of this. So like I said, here we go. Step 1. I see a 15 in front, so I'm thinking AC method. So I write it. So step 1, I look for a GCF. 15, 22, 8, there's nothing common there. And x squared x, and then the 8 doesn't even have a variable, so there's nothing common there. So now I'm going to get an idea. I'm going to pretend the 15's not even there. I just want to get an idea of what my signs are going to be. I always copy the first one down. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I know my pairing, they're both going to be negative numbers. Step 2. Let's take A times C. 15 times 8. So I'm not going to mess around with that. You get 120. Okay? Now, like I said, here's where a calculator really helps. So if you need to, grab it. I don't care. All right? You got a phone, use that, but be careful. Phone calculators are garbage. Just throwing it out there. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm gonna pay close attention. Because I need to get negative 22. And I know both of them are negative, so I'm just looking for 22. So here we go. 1 times 120 is 120. 2 times 60 is 120. 3 times 40 is 120. 4 times 30 is 120. I forget what 120 times 5 is.
24.
What was it again? 24. Thank you. All right. 6. Isn't that 20?
Yeah.
6 times 20 is okay. Does 7 work?
Didn't try.
Doesn't look like it. What about 8? Uh, 9. I don't think works. Nope. All right. Now remember, we're looking for negative 22. I want you to look right here. Does that work? Negative 8 minus 15. Oh, what did I hit by accident? Oh, no. I'm all over the place now, people. I am all over the place now. Sorry about that. Negative 8 minus 15. Ugh, negative 23. We're so close. Here's what you do. 1 through 9, just keep going. How about 10 times 12? That one looks really good. Negative 10 minus 12 is negative 22. So that's what I wanted right there. So just because you write 1 from 9, if that doesn't work, you got to keep going. Okay? So here's step 3. Negative 22x is going to equal negative 10x minus 12x. All right. Now. Hey. Hey. Did you hear him? That was his first howl. Hold on. Well, that's going to sound excellent in the YouTube video. Sorry about that, everyone. So, step 4. Let's rewrite. 15x squared minus 10x minus 12x plus 8. I need to know, does everybody see what I just did there? See, this whole thing about the AC method is to take that middle term and separate it into two of them. That way, you can factor by grouping. Okay? Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't hear a word you just said, Crystal.
The calculator is hiding what you just wrote.
You are the best. Thank you. So, let me repeat what I just said. The whole idea behind the AC method is to take, and I'm going to highlight, it's to take this middle term right here that we're figuring out, and we're rewriting it as two different terms. And the reason why we do that is so we can factor by grouping. Okay? So the AC, if somebody asked you, if you went to the grocery store and they were like, hey, why do you use the AC method? Your answer will be, so you could rewrite the middle term as two terms and then factor by grouping. That's all it does for us. So let's go ahead, let's finish this. Now we got to be careful. When I group, I got to make sure that I change that second sign because the middle sign is a minus. So you got to change the second grouping. It was plus 8, now it's minus 8. Now, we're going to factor out our little mini GCFs. For the first set of parentheses, stop. For the first set of parentheses, I factor out a 5x. That gives me 3x minus 2. For the second set of parentheses, I can factor out a 4. That gives me 3x minus 2. How do I know I'm on the right track? How do I know everything I've done? Step 1, 2, 3, and 4. How do I know it's all correct? Couldn't have said it better myself, Amanda. Thank you so much. The things or the numbers inside the parentheses match. That is how you know all the work that you did up to this point is absolutely correct. Let's factor out the 3x minus 2. And what's ever left over goes into the second set of parentheses. 5x minus 4. Okay? Now, some of you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, boy, that's a lot of work. All right? Let me show you the flip side to this. Okay? I don't want anybody to write this down because you're going to waste your time writing it down. Here's the flip side to this. 15x squared minus 22x plus 8. Here's the flip side. Give me a second. I need to think. Oh, that's supposed to be a 4. All right. So for this problem right here, here are the 4 possible answers. These are all possible. Because when you think about it, 3x times 5x is 15x squared. And negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. Look at the second example. 5x times 3x is 15x squared. Negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. Look at the third example. 3x times 5x is 15x squared. Negative 2 times negative 4 is still positive 8. And the last example, 5x times 3x is 15x squared. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. What I'm saying here is this. If you just try to factor this by using the section 2 method, How do you know you're correct? The only way that you're going to know that you are correct, you have to literally multiply every single one of these out to figure out which one gave you that beautiful middle term of negative 22x. You'll be there 4 times longer than the amount of time we took for this problem. That's the first thing. Second thing, hey, you may get lucky and get it on the first try. That's great. My method, which is the AC method, there is no guessing. There is no guessing. You literally just walk yourself through the problem. See, that's the issue when you have a number out front. That number out front changes the whole game because you don't know where to put those numbers. 3 or 5, 5 and 3. Could you imagine? Oops, sorry. Oh, come on. Who can I pick on? Who can I pick on here? Who can I pick on? How about Hannah? Hannah, you with me?
Yeah.
Hannah, we got really lucky with this previous problem because it was a 15. And that 15 only has 2 factors, right? 15 equals 3 times 5 and 1 times 15. Would you agree?
Yeah.
12. Can you give me the factors of 12? I'll help you out with the first one. 1 times 12. What's the next one?
Would it be 2 and 6?
Good. Give me one more.
Would it be 3 and 4?
Perfect. Notice 12 has the factors 1 times 2, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Now, the number of possible answers jumps dramatically because now you have to take into account more. My method, AC method, you don't have to worry about any of this junk. None of it. Because it's a system. It's a step-by-step process. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. I want you to try number 3 on your own. I want you to try number 3 on your own. Sorry, I was muted. Are we ready? Anybody stumped? It's okay if you're stumped. I get it. I totally get it.
I couldn't find the 22.
What's that, B?
I couldn't find the 22.
Okay. So let's go through it together then. You ready?
Yeah.
So step 1, is there a GCF? No. So I'm going to get that idea. I need 2 negatives. I need 2 negatives for my signs. Step 2, 8 times 5, that equals 40. So let's write out the factors of 40. 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 doesn't work, 4 and 10, 5 and 8, 6 doesn't work, 7 doesn't work, 8 and 5. I'm starting to repeat myself, so I'm done. Now, here's the thing. We know from step 1, our little idea, both the numbers have to be negative. So I'm going to rewrite my middle term. I'm going to rewrite my middle term, negative 22x, as negative 2x minus 20x. And it doesn't matter the order. It doesn't matter the order. Okay? Negative 2x minus 20x or minus 20x minus 2x. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, you got the right pair of numbers. So now step 4. Let's go ahead and let's finish. Let's rewrite it. 8x squared minus 2x minus 20x plus 5. Now we're going to group. 8x squared minus 2x. Minus sign in the middle. So let's make sure we swap or switch the sign on the inside. It was positive 5. Now I'm going to make it negative 5. Now we're going to do the mini GCF. In the first set of parentheses, I think it's going to be a 2x. So I get 4x minus 1. In the second set of parentheses, I can factor out a 5. And that's going to be 4x minus 1. Now I know all my work is correct. I feel so good about myself because the numbers inside the parentheses, the common binomial is the same. It's 4x minus 1. So I can factor out the 4x minus 1. 2x minus 5 is left over. And there's your answer. B, did you forget the 2 and 20?
Yes, I did.
Okay, are there any questions here? All right. Is this starting to make sense? All right, even people that I don't see your cameras, a little message in the chat, yes, Mr. Float, it's starting to make sense, it would be so nice to see that. You would make my day. You would make my, what's today, Friday? Saturday? Thursday. Is it Thursday? Perfect. Oh, I get a thumbs up from Carly with an E. That just made my day. That just made my day. Where's my chat at? What's that?
It makes sense to me.
Perfect. I have a chat box. Here it is. Oh, Ray said, yep. Gabrielle said, yes. Thank you so. I am the happiest man alive. I guess you could really tell I'm excited that it's Thursday. All right, let's do number 10. Now, number 10 looks crazy. 10x squared minus 13xy minus 3y squared. This is the first time we've seen y squared at the very end of a problem. It doesn't matter. I don't care about that because I have a technique. And that technique is more powerful than any problem that I can ever give you. So, we'll do this one together. Step 1. There's no GCF, so I'm not going to worry about it. Step 2. I'm going to get an idea. Here's my idea. I always copy down the first sign. The second sign has to be positive. Okay, the second sign has to be positive. Now, I know If I wanted to, can everybody watch the screen real quick? If I wanted to, I can put this here, and I'm going to write it in a different color so you know what I'm talking about. If I wanted to, I can put an X and an X, and I can also now put a Y and a Y because there's the X squared, here's the Y squared. If you want to put them there, that's fine. I'm not, because the only thing I care about out of step 1, to be honest with you, are those signs. That's the only thing I care about. All right. Step 2. A times C. 10 times 3 equals 30. Okay? So, let's write out the factors of 30. 1 times 30. 2 times 15. 3 times 10. 5 times 6. Now, here is why step 1 is so important. I know you've heard me say this a bunch of times today. Step 1 tells me the signs of my numbers. One of them is going to be negative. The other one is going to be positive. I need negative 13. Oops, sorry. I need negative 13. So, the only way I'm going to get negative 13 is plus 2 minus 15. That gives me negative 13. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to write step 3. I'm going to write negative 13x equals 2x minus 15x. And I'm going to wait a minute, because I want everyone to pay attention. All right. Give me 1 second. Do not write this down. Do not write this down. Everybody look at the screen. We have 2 options. I want you to watch and write, or I want you to watch and write. I want you to watch what I'm writing, and you tell me which one would you pick. Oh, 1 second. I forgot to include this, the XYs. There we go. Because that middle term is XY, so you got to be XY. Of these 2 options, option 1 or option 2, which one am I going to pick?
2.
Why? Who said 2? Who said option 2 first?
Me.
You're absolutely correct. That's the one I would pick. Why?
Because the first sign matches up.
The first sign matches up. Look, that middle sign right here is a positive. And I know when I create my groups, if that middle sign's positive, do I have to worry about changing signs? Both of them are correct. You can use either one, but in this case, there's a better option. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the second option. So now, if you want, you can write out what I'm about to write. 10x squared minus 15xy plus 2xy minus 3y squared. Remember, I need the xy for the middle term because the middle term was negative 13xy. So those variables are also going to be when you rewrite it. Like nothing changes there. Think of it as like the last name. Negative 13xy. Last name is xy. Good? Now, factor by grouping. 10x squared minus 15xy plus parenthesis 2xy minus 3y squared. Mini GCF time. I can definitely factor out, looks like a 5x. That's going to leave me with 2x minus 3y. Now, I really, really hope the second set of parentheses turns out to be 2x minus 3y. Like, I'm banking on that. What can I factor out? Looks like the letter y. And when I factor out a letter y, I'm left with 2x minus 3y. So I know all of my work is correct. I will factor out the common binomial. And the 5x plus y is left over. And that's it. That is it.